Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be walking you through how to clean and lubricate your Taurus TH9 pistol. We're going to do this as if this is your first gun, because I think for a lot of folks this might be their first gun. So if you've never held a gun, never touched a gun, we're going to show you how to disassemble it, clean it, lubricate it, and make sure you have it ready for the range. With all of that said, enough yapping from me. Let's do it. Before we get into actually cleaning the pistol, I want to walk you through what we're using here, because folks will always ask if I don't. Both of these bottles are just repurposed bottles you can pick up on Amazon. They're full of break-free CLP. CLP stands for cleaner, lubricant, and protectant, or cleaner, lubricant, and preservative, depending on who you ask. We have this super high-speed toothbrush, which is actually just a regular toothbrush. Glock tool, we may or may not need this, we'll see. This is our Tipton polymer pick. These are nice because they're polymer, so they won't scratch up your surface finishes there on your pistols, but they still allow you to get in the grooves. And we have this is actually a Glock bore punch, however, one just like it comes with your pistol, so use the one that comes with it if you don't already have a different brand. So links for all this stuff will be down below. Now let's get into it. Before we do anything else, we want to make sure the pistol is unloaded. So at this point we're going to press our magazine release, and it will come out, set our magazine off to the side. We're going to push up here on our slide lock lever, verify that it is indeed unloaded, let it go home, pull back a little bit, probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, and pull down rather on these two tabs, and then your slide will come forward like that. There's no need to pull the trigger or anything like that. We're going to pull up here on our guide rod and spring, pull up here and back there on our barrel, and that's it. That is as disassembled as we need to get it for normal maintenance. I like to start out with the barrel and let that work while we're kind of cleaning everything else. So we're going to take a patch here. This is just a cut up piece of t-shirt. If you want to buy specific 9mm patches, feel free to do so. Cut up t-shirt works fine. We're just going to push that through. One thing I'll caution you is if you're using a cut up t-shirt, kind of err on the side of small, because if you get too big, you can get things stuck in barrels. That's never fun. But one of the benefits of CLP is that it breaks down carbon. So we're just going to leave that in there and take a little bit of CLP, spray it on there, and kind of work it all around, loosening up the carbon that is deposited on the barrel. This will be a common theme throughout this video, but yeah. Some of you guys are going to want to use bore cleaners and stuff like that. That's totally fine. I have zero issues with that, but most people do not shoot thousands and thousands of rounds through their guns to the point where copper fouling will degrade it. So if that's not the case, CLP works just fine. Now onto the slide. We're going to angle the slide down. It's just a good habit, and the reason we're going to do that is we want to prevent a lot of oil getting into the firing pin channel. That can cause the firing pin to not go forward as fast as you'd like. That results in light primer strikes and other things that we don't want. We're just going to, again, work it all around. We're going to make sure we get up on the breech face there, and we're going to get into that a little bit more when we get into wiping this up. But really, again, we're just loosening the carbon deposits that are on the surface of the pistol. Same thing here on the frame. Basically, anywhere there's working parts back there on the trigger mechanism, just loosening everything up. Another benefit of the CLP is that it sort of migrates everywhere, which is good. Back here on the trigger mechanism, a lot of people really worry about lubricating that. You don't really need to. It'll work in there and provide lubrication that's good enough for most folks. We're going to do the same here on our guide rod, and just kind of work that around. This doesn't really get too dirty, but as you guys can see, I guess some carbon is coming off there on my hands. Now we're going to move back to the barrel where we started, and we're just going to run a patch through it. And I guess now is as good a time as any to cover the topic of how clean is clean. Some people will want to keep running patches through everything and the surfaces until everything's completely carbon free. If that's you, that's fine. I'm not going to do that for this video simply because of time, and I also think in real life it doesn't really make much of a difference. Get most of what you can off there and lubricate it. Use good ammo and technique. You should be good. So now we're going to just wipe off everything that we see CLP or carbon on, all the different surfaces. Make sure we get in here on the locking lugs there on the barrel. And then on our feed ramp, the TH9 has a nice polished feed ramp, so it's pretty easy to wipe off. But yep, we're just going to wipe all that down and continue moving on. We're going to do the same here, same thing rather here on the slide. There's a couple key points that we're going to want to focus on. The rails, the inside of the rails here, that is the portion that rides along these metal tabs here that you guys see on the frame. A lot of carbon tends to accumulate there, plus it is a bearing surface for the gun, so you want that to move freely. So we want to make sure that it's clean. You guys can see that there's definitely some carbon in there. And we're going to work in there with the picks, the tipped picks. just like so. And we're also going to want to wipe up all the surfaces that we can get to there with just our hand. And there's always going to be a little bit of carbon on your guns if you're using CLP, and there's also going to be a little bit of oil on your guns if you're using CLP, which is good. That's what you want. It'll just continually break down and continue to protect the surface as well. So a point that we really want to focus on is right here on this extractor. My camera will focus. Maybe. There you go, finally. So right here, up under that piece of metal, that's where we want to focus. We're going to get the palmer pick up under there because that's the portion that grabs your case and pulls it out during the firing cycle. And you guys can see there's a bunch of carbon on there. So you want to make sure that you get that as clean as possible and make sure it grabs the case with as much strength as possible and surface contact as possible. And that's pretty much it. We're going to keep moving on. Moving on to the frame, again, we're just going to wipe everything down as best we can. One thing one area that you generally don't want to have a lot of oil in is your mag well. As far as I know, there's not a single gun manufacturer that recommends any sort of oil or lubrication in the mag well, which makes sense. It simply isn't needed. And for these little surfaces here, these picks are nice. What I recommend is don't really fight it. If your pick gets hung up, don't fight it. Just kind of move on. Get what you can, but you don't want to be pulling out springs or anything like that. You want to make sure you get underneath these rail surfaces here. If you guys are using patches that allow you to get under there, just do that. If not, use your pick to get under there, kind of like that. And once again, you'll see there is carbon there because it's a bearing surface. So keep working in there. Same thing applies here for the rear. Anywhere that we can stick our pick into is fine. Don't go prying though. If it gets hung up, just call it a day and move on. Now here for our guide rod and spring, just going to wipe it down. Again, this really isn't an area that gets too dirty on the pistol. For lubrication, we'll start here with the barrel. And once again, guys, this is just the same stuff. It's break-free CLP. You guys can see that we're already showing some wear patterns there on the barrel, which is good. It means you use your pistol, you're practicing, all of those sorts of things. It also means those are points that you want to lubricate because they are friction surface. So light coat of CLP throughout the barrel. Back here on the locking lugs is nice because those are friction surfaces as well. Same thing down here on the side. You guys can probably see that area that's kind of starting to show some wear. We're going to put that back in. Take our guide rod and spring, a little bit of CLP on there. It will work around as you fire the gun naturally, so you don't have to worry too much about that one. Press it down and in place. Now at this point, there's two different places we can lubricate. We can either lubricate down here in the rails, or you can put a drop of lubrication on each one of these points. Either one is fine. I don't have a preference over the other. I'm just going to put it in the rails just for video's sake here, and then a little bit of a drop there right back here where it is sliding on the hammer. So really that's it, guys. At this point, we're just going to line everything up there like so. We're going to press up here on the slide lock and run the slide to the rear. And at this point, we're just going to do a quick functions check. We're going to drop the slide, point in a safe direction, pull the trigger. It should fire. It does. We're going to let the trigger reset like so. It does. And then at this point, we'll hit the decocker, make sure that works, put it on safe, make sure it does not fire. Our basic functions check for this particular pistol is passed. Now at this point, we can just wipe it down, make sure there's no excess CLP or anything coming out. And you can either put it back in the safe, load it up, put it in a holster, or whatever you're going to do with it. It is good to go and should treat you well, provided that you keep up with the maintenance. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions about how to clean and lubricate this pistol or really any other gun, you can always post those down below in the comments section. As always, if you actually need an answer, the best place to get me is over at my Facebook page that you see here on your screen. I see all the messages I get over there, whereas on YouTube, Full 30, and elsewhere that I post videos, I don't always see them. So just shoot me a message. I'll get back to you within a couple days usually. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully this helps some new folks out. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the next video.